Yeah, this particular item is going to be presented to us by Steve Wittry, our Public Works Director, and he's going to be discussing the Southside Road Hospital, and he's going to basically be presenting a progress report. So, Steve?
We're good? Okay. Thank you, Ray, and board member and members of the Board of Supervisors. Basically, what the board has asked for a progress of the hospital process. As you know, we are trying to dispose of that site through the process of separating it out and going through an RFP process. What I prepared for you on the second page of this attachment is a single-page schedule that shows kind of where we are in time. Some of the processes are already approved or gone through that approval process. Kind of where we're at now is next week and the first meeting in October. We should have an item for you where the perfecting lot line adjustment is brought before the Board of Supervisors for approval. From that point, we go forward and continue with the lot line adjustment process, and then we have the board declare the property as surplus. Once it's gone through a surplus property declaration, we go through the process of it's being offered to others, state, local agencies, and they can take the property if they so desire. Assuming that we're not going to have any takers on that, we've been in contact with people unofficially from the city, from water districts and so forth, and there's not a lot of interest from an institutional standpoint for that piece of property. We'll be able to advertise for a request for proposals for private groups or nonprofits or what have you to propose on a use for that site. The goal of that proposal would be to have something that came back to the Board of Supervisors or a subcommittee there, perhaps a facilities group, to help weigh in and look at the different proposals, bring the correct proposal that they felt was the best fit for the community back to the Board of Supervisors for approval, and then hopefully in spring of 14 we could actually execute that process. So as you see, there's a lot of steps that we've gone through already. There's still quite a few to go. But the whole goal of the process is to try to dispose of that property in a responsible fashion, and hopefully we'll be able to have someone from the community, a private sector, come and fill in the gap for their public sector issue. If any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, any questions from the board? Supervisor Beto Cruz.
Steve and Matt, that so it relieves us of any liability, right, in the future?
Once the whole goal of this process, we're actually legally separating that parcel, and will become the ownership of whoever the ultimate person takes it, and that will relieve us of the responsibility. Now, just so everybody's aware, when we do the RFP proposal, what's going to be included is all the information that we know about it, because it's very important to have an open book on this process, because we have done a lot of work out there. We know there's problems with that, and we will disclose that to anybody and everybody through the RFP process so that they can have a very, very good look at it. They will know everything we know about the property, and they can make an appropriate proposal so that they can't sort of say that the county gave us something that we didn't know about. So we want to disclose everything we know about the property. We've also given the RFP process a 2-month process. It is over the holidays, but we wanted to have enough time to make sure that whoever was in that looking at doing something that had enough time to review all the data that we have, and we would actually offer them the chance to do their own reconnaissance if they would so desire to satisfy their own curiosities or needs. And we have had a couple of continuing inquiries about process from a couple of different groups, so I think that when we get to the RFP process, we should have 1 or 2 proposals that the board or the facility subcommittee could look through and recommend for approval at that time.
May I ask a question? If this, I know some of this stuff may have to be done through closed session negotiating, but the nonprofits would be able to come first, right? They can come forward and say we're interested, not nonprofits, but other government agencies is what I meant.
Other government agencies would have a chance to go through the process first. They would get first swing at the, or bite of the apple, if you will, or first swing of the bat, if they would want to take it off of our hands. Remember, the ultimate goal for us, it's 2 things. We have an existing situation where we have a lot of liability with that structure. We know that there's unsafe conditions. We know that it's boarded up. We know it's broken into constantly. We have that unsafe situation. We're trying to relieve the county from that responsibility as best we possibly can. The other part of that is hopefully we're able to shore up the county's coffers a little bit, if that's, but the reality of the situation, as I said, we know that the estimate for cleaning is right around $500,000. We know the appraisal is a little bit better than that, but given the amount of work and the amount of timing, you know, I think that notwithstanding the county's bottom line, if we can get out of the building for $1, it might not be a bad idea. So.
But one more thing, Mr. Chair, but you said that the proposal was for $500,000 to clean it up, but we really didn't get a formal, did we?
It was an estimate based upon the phase one analysis that we did out there.
Okay,
It was,
because we really need to find out what it really would cost. I mean, put it out there and let somebody bid on it. It might only cost us $300,000.
the whole, yeah.
So
Sorry.
we would do that before proceeding, I'm sure. Would we?
Probably not. That wouldn't be the plan. The plan would be to have that information and let the private side firm come up with a proposal to do that themselves, and then they can look at what kind of profit margin they may be able to make with the rest of the property. So it lets them delve into that level of detail and doesn't put us on the hook for it. So we would let them do that. That's why we'd make sure all the data was available for them to make their judgments of what would take and cost to dispose of it properly.
Okay.
All right, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, okay, thank you. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this item? If not, I think that was a report with the milestones, and so we appreciate it, Steve. Next item, I guess, is,
Yeah. The next item on the agenda is item 21, and Steve also is going to be given a report to update your board on the road zipper and, in essence, the performance of it in the new Hydra area. So, Steve.
One second as we come to life here.
There it goes.
Coming up. Thank you once again. Basically, this is a report of the activities that we incurred over the summer in the new Adria Road area. As you're aware, we did a test project out there. This is a chance to kind of sum it up all into one report and identify how the process went and let the board know how the machine worked out there. Just to start off from the bat, Public Works is very pleased with the way the machine worked ultimately and has put forward the process to go ahead and purchase that vehicle, so we'll have it as part of our fleet going towards into the future here. What you have here is a picture of New Adria Road. This is a subject area before we actually did any work out there. As you can see, it looks very much like a minefield has gone off, and a lot of the traffic actually travels on the shoulder road rather than the pavement out there, and that was what we tried to address. The way that this process works is for the traditional maintenance approach, and did those, I had some, oh, did they get passed out? Good. Okay, fantastic. The traditional process that we do for road maintenance is there's a mild deterioration of the surface, is a chip or slurry seal. If there's severe surface deterioration, maybe an overlay, 1 or 2 inch overlay. If there's road failure or base failure, it was a road reconstruct. And traditionally, what a road reconstruct does is it requires you to remove the existing asphalt. It's trucked away or ground away and is removed from the site. New base rock is applied, and then it's graded, compacted, and then a new driving surface is applied on top of that. What the grinding, this particular machine does is it takes away that first step. It actually removes the material, leaves it in place, it grinds it up into base material, and then that saves you 2 times trucking. You don't have to truck the material away, it stayed in place. You don't have to truck new material in necessarily because you're using that rock for your base material. The last 2 pieces of the equation are still there, which is the compaction and shaping of the road, and then resurfacing. Those still are there regardless of what method you go forward with. What you have here is May 20th was the first day we had our demo out there in the site. The road is about halfway taken out on this particular picture, and what you have here is the road reduced to base rock on the one side, and the machine is being repositioned. As Supervisor Munzer pointed out on one occasion, it kind of is a small unit. There's a picture of it later on. It actually fits on the front end of a bucket loader, which is one of our large pieces of equipment to use to move rock around the facility or in the field. It sits in the bucket of that and actually is operated by the driver in that loader. Next to that is a person who walks alongside and actually controls the depth and speed with a handheld unit. There's a video I'll show you in a few minutes that shows actual in operation. But basically it's a 2-person operation. One person drives the loader, which has the machine on it to give it the forward momentum, and the person walking alongside of it controls the speed, the revolutions per minute for the drum, as well as the depth of how deep those teeth go into the ground. So this was the product that left behind on May 20th, and to be honest with you, on May 20th, we were not really satisfied with the performance of it. As you can see, for overall, it did a fine job in terms of turning the road into rock, but there are some chunks that are in there, and those chunks really would have to be removed prior to us using that for paving material. So one of the concerns that we had was the actual performance of it, and would it be able to work as advertised? And that was one of the cautionary things we had talked about on that day with the vendor. Basically, this is actually a video from that day, if I can get it to work here. Basically, it just moves right along. It's actually not even that loud, to tell you the truth. So you see the guy in the front there in the yellow jacket. He was the guy with the remote control. He was actually controlling it. The unit moves along the front end of a loader, and you can see it just basically, as I said, it's like a rototiller for asphalt, and it turns that pavement into a base material.
Steve, you can regulate the depth,
Yes.
and you know before going in there, I mean, some of those are just really small layers, others are 6-inch layers.
Basically, what we found, and that's why we were out there at a road that had varying levels. That road has been in service for well over 100 years. That's the end of the video here as it just shuts off here. We'll stop in about another second here. Basically, what happens is in that particular road has been in service for 100 years. Different areas have washed out at different times, and different road crews have gone out there over the years and replaced it in different fashions. The bulk of that road was very thin, you know, an inch or two at the most thick. There were certain areas that when they went across there was literally 5 inches of asphalt that were out there. So what happened is, as they came to those thicker areas that had been repaired, maybe they're washed out or something like that, and rather than bring rock in because it was so difficult, they just bring in a lot of cold mix essentially, and they put it in place and compacted it to bring the road back. And this is over the course of, you know, like I said, over the 100 years or so that road's been in service. What would happen is, as the unit goes forward, there's an RPM gauge that is in the driver, and also it has something on the, you can actually hear it as well. When the RPMs slow down a little bit, it's getting thicker asphalt, so what you do is you drop it down a little bit. The overall unit drop it down a little bit so it can work through that process a little bit better. So it's kind of a feel as you go type process, and it's adjustable on the fly. The person who's operating the remote can change the depth of cut from 1 inch down to 12 inches down with its controller. And it's just hydraulically operated, and it can lower as it goes, as it cuts through, to change that elevation and how much cut there is depending on what they're trying to go through. Generally, though, what we'll do is we'll set it for a certain depth, 3 to 4 inches or however thick the asphalt is, and then go from there. But in something like this, where it's really kind of unknown and it changes, it has the flexibility to change as it operates.
There's never the chance of mixing the asphalt with soil.
There's always a chance of that, but it's minimized. I mean, yes,
Otherwise it
yes.
compromises the.
Yes, if you get too much soil into the mix, it could be a problem. Yes, there's always a chance of that, but it minimizes the.
Minimize it. Okay.
Yes, yes. So that was the machine as it worked on the 20th, as I said. What we did after that review of the work that happened out there, we talked to the vendor, and they have a different version of it. Basically, the way this works is there's a large diesel engine on top. It's about 200 horsepower engine, and it powers this drum. This is the look of the drum from the bottom. The one that we used on May 20th has a certain number of teeth for a standard application. What we did is we let the vendor bring another unit back down. Actually, they refit our unit back in Utah. They brought it to Utah because the unit that they're testing here, they sell nationwide, and it had the California emissions on the engine. So rather than trying to bring another one with California emissions, they brought that one back to Utah. They put a different drum on it, which had twice as many teeth on it. This is a lower picture. It has twice as many teeth on there to pulverize the asphalt a little bit better. We brought that unit back down, and actually it worked wonderfully. It worked exactly as we had hoped it would do, exactly as it was quote-unquote advertised. I didn't do a video of the June 20th. It's the same, except for the rock looks much better to use for road and for paving and whatnot. So then we let that material sit out there for a little bit, but partially because it was the summer, we had a lot of work to do, and it was such a remote area, partially because we wanted to make sure that we can get our good grading operations down there in terms of compaction. On August 14th, we brought we had a chip seal applied to the road out there. It was done with county forces, and we had some oil trucked in from a vendor, but county forces performed the work down there. And on the 14th, they put a chip seal over that 1.75 mile stretch of road down there. Basically, if you look at the road before and after, it's completely night and day. There is no comparison to how it is now as to how it was before we started work. The pictures don't really do it justice, but if you're actually out there and you're looking at it, it's actually looks very well. What we're doing now is we're in the evaluation phase. We want to see what happens to the road over the course of the winter. We only did a single chip seal out there. If we're going to do something in a more urban area like Riverside Road or Flint Road or Comstock or something like that that gets more traffic than this, we'd probably do a double chip seal on it to make it a little bit thicker. But since this really is something basically just to weatherize it, to keep the water off the base material, we did a single chip seal, and we will see how it wears over the course of the winter and see what happens with that. So basically, coming down to the costs, this is what we actually spent down there for that work. I didn't include the labor out there. As I said, we were learning a little bit, and I didn't include the cost of the machinery. But going forward, this is the kind of cost that you can expect for this kind of work. Essentially, we put about $50,000 of work out there to that 1.7 miles, which for 1.7 miles is a good price. But when you compare that to the 400 miles of roadway that we have to work with, it does get expensive. We have a long way to go. For example, where there's 17 more miles of New Adria Road to go, at 17 more miles, we'd have another $500,000 of work if we were going to do that road as our next priority. As I said, we're very happy with the machine. We put the paperwork through to go ahead and finalize that purchase as approved in our capital projects budget. The next roads that we will be looking at doing are under evaluation right now. We're looking at either the remainder of Southside Road, because we've stopped at the end of the bridge below Vineyard Estates. We're looking at doing that portion from that bridge to Tres Pinos, or the area of Comstock Road we're looking at as well. And we're also looking at Riverside Road for the next area to apply this product to. All those roads that I just mentioned would have a double chip seal as opposed to a single chip seal if that was the process we're going through. Whichever road we've ultimately determined will be the one to be used. It likely will not happen until the rainy season ends, which would be probably March when we get it fired up again. So.
Now, on a road like, Mr. Chair, if I may ask, on a road like Comstock, this road, it has the dome on it. You can use that machine there and just have some, because obviously you're going to have to remove the dome, and that you can still use that and just have another piece of equipment behind it to spread the base rock, so to speak.
Yeah. As I said, and actually roads like Comstock are originally what this is actually designed to do, where we have that road figure that I know we've been out there and we've looked at that, the wheel tracks.
Yeah.
And the wheel tracks is a classic sign of a failed road. What this will do is it'll remove, it'll turn that failed asphalt into an aggregate material, and then it'll allow compaction to occur, essentially creating a new base, and then we'll pave over the top of it. So the dome will be gone when we're done. And then what this machine also allows, as I said, it has a 12-inch depth. Roads like Comstock and Southside and Riverside Road don't have base that deep. We have a unique situation right now as there's a lot of work happening with one of the local contractors who's doing a lot of highway work on Highway 101, and they have call it a plethora of extra asphalt grindings. What you can actually do, and what we plan on doing, is using some of that material and actually laying it on top of the asphalt before we bring the grinder across it. And then it'll act as a blender, and it'll put more rock into the road and actually increase the amount of base from before. It'll mix that together into a homogeneous mixture. We'll compact that and put the new surface on top of that for a stronger road.
Storing it in our county, pretty much.
They have it on site. Basically, the deal that we've been working with them is basically we go get it, it's free. So when we have a spare truck that's in the area, we go down and take a load of it back, and we store it at the quarry that's on Southside Road. We have quite a stockpile over there right now, but it's at this point, we use that material for shoulder improvements and things like that when it gets neck down. But that material also is a great use on these road surfaces. It'll add extra layer there.
Just one last thing, Mr. Chair, if I could, I would like to nominate Comstock Road as the next road to be done.
Well, I'm all for it. Yeah, you know, maybe another material, I don't know, it tends to be a cheaper base rock material is recycled cement. I know Chapin has quite a bit in his quarry. Is that another material that you could use if that asphalt's not available?
It's something we could look at, certainly. Anything that has any rebar in it, we can't do anything with rebar in it. Obviously, the stuff that Chapin has, it doesn't have that rebar situation in it. Really, it's something that we could experiment with and see how it goes. It really is designed more for asphalt because it will break down the asphalt bind. The concrete bind is a little bit stronger than an asphalt bind, but it's something certainly we could look at and do a test section. One of the things that we did out here on New Idria Road, you'll see a line item there. It's for cement. Basically, one of the things that you can do to address an area where there is a soft portion in the base material is you can use a lime addition or cement addition, and that will firm up that area and help you get a more stabilized base. So although we didn't have a problem with the base per se out on New Idria Road, what we wanted to do was to test the application process and how we would actually apply it into a place such as Comstock, where we have base failure. Even actually on Flint Road, we have that as well a little bit, where we have that base failure, and we would use an additive to help stabilize the road surface below that. So when we put this out here, like I say, it was a test for the vendor to show us what they had. It was also a test for our guys to understand how they would do certain things in different areas, and that was so in a lot of senses. That's a lot of the reason why I didn't include labor here, because a lot of the time we were out there, we're just trying different things and trying to experiment how things will go. The next road we do will be much more efficient than this current was.
Okay. And one last question I have you had any feedback from the public? Maybe this is something for Supervisor Munzer.
Well, that's my comment. New Idea Road is essentially a dead-end road for all practical purposes. Comstock in Supervisor Barrios' district is a dead-end road. Riverside in
That's what scares the heck out of me. I can hear Union Heights right now.
Southside Road, at least you're going somewhere. You're going from Tres Pinas to Hollister. I vote for Southside Road to be the next project.
I made the nomination.
Streets next to the high school.
There you go.
Riverside Road, right?
I have an unpaved road there, you know.
I just
Whose
assume.
district is Riverside in?
Anthony.
Yeah, it is, okay.
That's mine. Yeah,
Somebody agreed to cost
I'm a little scared, leery of it yet. I'd rather experiment in other supervisory districts.
No wonder he agreed.
Just don't bring it in my district, Steve.
That's really nice of you.
Anyway, okay, well, thank you very much for the report. Any comments from public? They seeing none. We'll move on to closed session. County Council 23 through 24.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chair, Board of Supervisors will now adjourn into closed session to discuss agenda items number 22 through 24. On today's agenda, agenda item number 22 is to confer with real property negotiators. The properties in discussion are the Palm Tag Ranch, APN 020-170-017, located off of Cienega Road in Hollister, California. San Benito High School property, APNs 020-170-043 and 059-020-001 and 059-020-003, located off Nash Road in Hollister, California. The Chick/Tag Paintball property, APN 020-280-050, located on San Benito Street in Hollister, California. The agency negotiators are Steve Wittry, the Public Works Administrator, Adam Goldstone, Capital Projects Manager, Ray Espinoza, the Interim CAO, Matthew Granger, County Counsel, Barbara Thompson, Assistant County Counsel, and Shirley Murphy, Deputy County Counsel. The negotiating parties are Ron Ross on behalf of Palm Tag Ranch property owners, Michael Rubistelli on behalf of the San Benito High School District, and Roland Chick on his own and on behalf of the Tag Paintball property. Under negotiation is the price and terms of payment, and the authority to meet in closed session is found in California Government Code Section 54956.8. Agenda item number 23 is to confer with the board regarding the appointment of the County Administrative Officer. The authority to meet in closed session is found at California Government Code 54957. And finally, agenda item number 24 is the county employee appointment of the Director of Health and Human Services Agency. The authority for this closed session can be found in California Government Code Section 54957.
Okay, thanks.
turn my mic on, but, but yeah, anything with heavy equipment and roads, and so, yeah. I've learned over the years a few things about it, and so. Good for you? Yeah, well, thank you. I am so sorry, I just turned it off and forgot all about it.
Other mics up for a little bit.
Turn them off?
No, I was turning the other mics up and down while you
Oh, okay.